The sound of a heartbeat can sometimes be louder than the truth. When Ethan Mercer finally reached the address where Olivia had asked him to meet, his shirt was still damp from helping a stranger trapped inside a crashed car. He had ignored the dozens of calls on his phone because another human life had mattered more than being on time. But the moment he stepped through the half-open front door, time itself seemed to stop. Across the elegant living room, Olivia was wrapped in another man's arms, their lips locked together on a white sofa as afternoon sunlight poured through the windows. In that instant, every sacrifice Ethan had ever made felt meaningless, and the future he had imagined shattered without a single word. Before we continue, if you believe kindness should never be mistaken for weakness and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in love, and subscribe to Loyal Hearts. We'd also love to know where you're watching from, because our community reaches amazing people all around the world. Ethan quietly stepped backward before anyone noticed him. The flowers he had bought only an hour earlier slipped from his hand onto the porch. He climbed back into his car without starting the engine, staring through the windshield while the world around him continued as if nothing had happened. Just 40 minutes earlier, he had been dreaming about proposing to Olivia before the end of the year. They had spent 3 years building memories together, planning vacations they could barely afford, imagining the little house they would someday own, and promising that no matter how difficult life became, they would always choose each other. Yet one unexpected scene had erased every beautiful picture his heart had painted. His mind replayed the events of the afternoon again and again. On the way to the date, he had seen a terrible accident. Smoke poured from a damaged vehicle while frightened people simply recorded the scene with their phones. Ethan had rushed forward without hesitation, pulled an injured elderly man from the driver's seat and stayed beside him until paramedics arrived. By then, his phone battery had died after multiple emergency calls. He never imagined that choosing compassion would cost him the woman he loved. For the next several days, Ethan disappeared from everyone. He stopped answering friends, ignored work messages, and buried himself in endless hours of overtime. Every familiar street reminded him of Olivia. Every restaurant brought back another memory. He questioned whether kindness had made him foolish. Perhaps the world rewarded selfish people more than good ones. The thought slowly transformed the optimistic man he once was into someone who barely recognized himself. Meanwhile, Olivia searched desperately for Ethan. She visited his apartment, called his coworkers, and even contacted his sister, but Ethan refused every attempt to meet. She couldn't understand why he had vanished without explanation. She had waited for him that afternoon until her older brother Nathan surprised her by returning from military service overseas, months earlier than expected. Overwhelmed with emotion after not seeing him for nearly 2 years, she had embraced him with tears streaming down her face. Nathan had kissed her forehead before pulling her into another hug as they laughed and cried together. From the doorway, however, Ethan had arrived at precisely the moment when the embrace looked like something entirely different. Weeks passed before fate intervened again. Ethan volunteered one Saturday morning at a community charity event because helping others had always been the only thing that truly quieted the pain inside him. As he organized donated food boxes, he heard someone softly call his name. Turning around, he froze. Olivia stood there with tired eyes that carried the weight of sleepless nights. Beside her stood Nathan wearing his military uniform. For several long seconds, no one spoke. Ethan's anger wrestled with confusion while Olivia fought back tears. Nathan finally stepped forward, introducing himself and thanking Ethan for once encouraging his sister through the difficult months when he had been deployed overseas. The realization struck Ethan with breathtaking force. The man he had believed stole the love of his life was actually her brother. The truth came crashing down harder than heartbreak itself. Olivia explained that she had never stopped waiting for Ethan that afternoon. She had tried to explain everything but could never reach him. She had assumed something terrible had happened because he never answered another message. Ethan admitted that he had seen only a single moment and allowed that image to become an entire story inside his mind. Neither of them had trusted the other enough to ask one simple question before letting silence destroy everything. Healing did not happen in a single afternoon. Trust had to be rebuilt slowly, one conversation at a time. Ethan apologized for walking away without listening. Olivia admitted she should have found another way to reach him sooner, instead of believing he simply needed space. Together they learned that love is not tested during perfect moments. It is tested when fear whispers louder than truth and when assumptions seem easier than honest communication. Months later, Ethan returned to the very same house carrying another bouquet of flowers. This time he wasn't late and there were no misunderstandings waiting behind the door. Nathan welcomed him with a smile before quietly stepping aside. In the peaceful afternoon light, Ethan knelt before Olivia and asked the question he had almost buried forever. Through joyful tears she accepted, proving that broken hearts can still become whole when humility, forgiveness, and honesty replace pride. Life rarely falls apart because of one terrible moment. More often it falls apart because people stop talking when they should start listening. A single misunderstanding nearly destroyed two people who truly loved each other. Yet their willingness to forgive transformed their deepest pain into the strongest foundation they had ever known. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is not walking away after your heart breaks. It is finding the strength to uncover the truth before deciding the ending of your own story. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of the importance of trust, forgiveness, and communication, please support the video by liking it, sharing it with someone you care about, and subscribing to Loyal Hearts for more emotional stories that inspire hope. Special request: comment the words "trust before judgment" if you believe one honest conversation can save a lifetime of regret. Thank you for spending these moments with us. Until next time, remember that what our eyes see is not always the whole truth, and the strongest relationships are built not on perfect timing, but on patience, understanding, and the courage to listen before walking away.